Start at the top. Nick Saban. We know why we hate Nick Saban here in town. Do we not? I mean, look, it all happened during those 2 years he was with the Miami Dolphins, and it didn't stem from the fact that the Dolphins doctors screwed him by suggesting, this breeze, he'll never throw another pass again. And Dante Culpepper, even though he was timed in a wheelchair at 9.6 in the 40-yard dash, they said, well, this is your guy, Nick. Imagine the time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Great to be with you here. Today's edition of the Defo Show. I'm Jeff DeForest, a.k.a. Defo, and a handsome gentleman, which side would you be on? Would you be juxtaposed, or are you actually on the left side of the screen?
You're right. They're left, I guess.
All right, because am I seeing this thing backwards? That would make some sense anyway. Mike Lubie Lubitz is with us. Gloomy Mike Lubie Lubitz after the shellacking that was taken by the Miami Heat last night. That was a game very reminiscent. Let me see the date here. February 23rd, 1996. Does that ring a bell?
Game, yeah. It was like
was that not the Rex Chapman game in reverse?
Yeah.
Where the Heat...
Last night.
You'll find it surprising, Lubie. I did a little research on this. The Heat had traded away virtually all of their roster. I think they lined up with, did they have 8 guys or 7 that night? I want to say 8.
It's 7 or 8. Yeah, it was something like that.
They had traded away, let's see. They had traded away Kevin Willis, Bimbo Coles, Billy Owens, and Kevin Gamble. Does that ring a bell? Kevin Gamble? Who the hell was he? And also a rookie, I believe, named Terrence Rencher in a variety of deals, the essence of which were to acquire Tim Hardaway. And they got Tim Hardaway, Walt Williams, Chris Gatling, and Tony Smith in a couple of different deals that they had made.
And they traded for Zoe. They either had just traded or were trading for Zoe as well around the same time. So had no play.
Zero. Okay. And the only guy left on the roster of any significance, I guess that night, was Rex Chapman, who ended up going off for 39 points in that ball game. Rex Chapman against the 96 Bulls. That was the 72-win Bulls, was it not?
Yes, it was the team that set the record until the Warriors broke it a few years ago.
One of those 10 losses, can you imagine this? One of those 10 losses was to a team that had nobody on the roster. Rex Chapman goes 9 for 10 from three-point range, has 39 points in the ball game. The final on that one, 113-104. Your Miami Heat.
Yeah.
So clearly, Toronto, the Toronto Raptors are in clear-out mode there, and I don't know that they're tanking so much, but they traded away Anunoby and got back R.J. Barrett and quickly, right, from the New York Knicks. So, I mean, it's not like they got scrubs back for Anunoby. Anunoby has been very successful in the turnaround of the Knicks. I don't know that they turned things around, but they definitely changed the dynamic of their team by getting Anunoby, adding in a guy that plays a little bit of defense, R.J. Barrett. Would you consider him somewhat of a stiff? I don't know that you can categorize him as a stiff. And the guy is capable of scoring. Just doesn't. He's an uninspiring player as an NBA player, even though he's capable of scoring 20, 30 a night.
Yep. He's a talented kid who's not consistent at all. And that's the thing the Knicks just got sick of, and they went for a guy that's not as talented but very consistent.
He seems like he's playing without any real passion or desire, doesn't he? R.J. Barrett, he's just kind of out there. He was the same way at Duke. I didn't think it was all that great at Duke, R.J. Barrett. Seemed like, that was a year where there wasn't a tremendous talent pool if he was a number 3 overall pick. Although a viable NBA player, I don't know, maybe somebody else change the scenery might inspire him. Look what happened to Baker Mayfield, for God's sake.
Oh, Jesus.
Baker Mayfield had been traveling around. He was becoming a veritable Joe Flacco type of journeyman at that point, and ends up in the right spot. And now he finds himself in the second round of the playoffs, although many people feel that this is the end, my special friend, the end. As you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, what kind of points are they getting in this ballgame? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm thinking, and this is the worst thing that could ever happen to a person. Not the loss of memory, Lubie, although that's not good either. I was blanking on Kenny Mayne yesterday. I
Oh,
was
jeez.
talking to a friend of mine, and I was trying to figure out who was the guy that left ESPN and became a spokesman for Caesar's Palace. He turned down, I think Kenny Mayne turned down about $700,000 a year, which wouldn't it be great to be in this business and be able to tell somebody to go fuck themselves after they offered you $700,000 a year? One time, Sam Reticulano, one time. The Buccaneers are getting 6 and a hook while going on the road against the Detroit Lions with the red-hot offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, who we thought was the steroid-laced sprinter. But Ben Johnson is a smoking hot commodity as a potential head coach. By the way, McCarthy's staying with the Dallas Cowboys. I thought, that after Jerry Jones slept on it and saw virtually everybody anticipating he was going to fire McCarthy, is that somewhat typical Jerry Jones, where everybody's telling you to do something, so you just say, you know what, we don't need to do that. 12 wins a year and a first-round loss in the playoffs every year. Perfectly satisfied with that. I'll go to my grave coveting that situation. I'm not sure. I mean, is that all on McCarthy? Remember, just a few weeks before the playoffs started, everybody was talking about Dak Prescott being the MVP of the league. And then he gets into the postseason, and he doesn't have a whole lot of success. Has he won, one playoff game, two playoff games?
One game. I don't know. He may have won more. I mean, he's been
I think he might be like 2-6 or something like that. Is that possible? Has he been around long enough to be 2-6?
A while now, and they usually have a lot of talent, and they always flame out. I mean, I don't understand the McCarthy thing. I don't get it. Jerry Jones.
How do you fire a guy that wins 12 games 3 years in a row?
I mean, because they're not growing. They keep putting money into this team. They keep going for the brass ring, and they keep losing in the first round. People are already upset with Mike McDaniel. It's only his second year. McCarthy's been there a bunch of years now, and he's always been I guess you can stay with him, but it just makes zero. He's not going to make them better. Like, they're not going to get better next year. This was almost their cap. They have a lot of talent, and guys are going to start coming due for deals. Okay. I don't know. I don't understand it at all. I get it. Jerry Jones wants to be the puppet master, and a really good coach really isn't going to want to deal with that shit. Okay. Then
Dave Campos syndrome. Is that what you're suggesting?
I said McCarthy saw. I mean, McCarthy's not a good coach. Like, he's never been good. He had Aaron Rodgers.
He won a Super Bowl, but he had Aaron Rodgers.
They should have won a lot more with the team they had in Green Bay. McCarthy sucks. He's not a good coach. It was a weird hire from the day one, and all he's done is underwhelm. But Jerry Jones doesn't want a guy that's going to win, because a guy that's going to win is going to tell him to go fuck himself. And Jerry Jones does not want that.
That's why it seemed really odd that people were speculating that Belichick would end up there. I couldn't imagine Jerry Jones and Belichick working together, although Jerry Jones did have Bill Parcells there. Bill Parcells wasn't the kind of guy that was going to get pushed around, especially after his various tenures in the league. You would think that it was the old philosophy that Jerry Jones would have to capitulate to, that if you're going to, let me cook the meal, let me buy the groceries. They should have hired Tom Tannizini to go ahead, and our friend that does all the New Orleans cooking. So McCarthy's going to stay. That ends a lot of speculation. I haven't heard anything about the Sirianni situation in Philadelphia, but that also seems odd. I mean, how do you let a guy go? I understand he was also the architect of what turned out to be just an horrendous
collapse,
inexplicable and catastrophic collapse. But he also was the guy that was a questionable call away from winning the Super Bowl last year.
Yep.
And got a team off that wasn't quite as good as they were last year. That was somewhat inexplicable, was it not? I mean, you could look at Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts had a sensational year 2 years ago. This year, he wasn't nearly as effective, maybe hampered and compromised by injury. Certainly, you could look at that and say that's viable and realistic. But what happened to the battle in the trenches? So where they had a defensive front that was almost impenetrable, and at the same time, their offensive line last year was great. The Philadelphia Eagles. We didn't mention Jason Kelce. Is that confirmed finally that he is retiring?
He's retiring.
Because he did mention that supposedly to teammates. Schefter was all over that, man. I mean, like Inspector Clouseau. He was all over that story. So give him credit for that, saying that there was rumbling that he had mentioned to his teammates, Jason Kelce, who had been with the Philadelphia Eagles his entire 13-year career. And he was, he was the straw that mixed the drink there on the offensive line. A real solid element. So he's not going to be there anymore. And you're wondering. I don't know. Would you make a change there in Philadelphia? You don't like Sirianni. You think he's an asshole.
He's annoying because of how much he's defended this fucking tush push. But they just went to a Super Bowl. Look, and I get it. 2 years after winning a Super Bowl, Doug Peterson was out there, so they don't give a lot of life. So yes, if he has another year where they're worse or they don't do anything in the playoffs,
if they regress,
then he probably won't make it through next year. But no, I'm not firing him now. They should have won the Super Bowl. They outplayed the Chiefs for three and a half quarters.
Oh my God, that was great.
So like he's done a good job. And even this year, you could tell they weren't the same team, but they still got out to that 10-1 start. So it's not all on him. They had injury issues. Jalen Hurts was not himself, and good for him for gutting it out. So would it be better that he didn't play? They weren't the same team. I don't put that all on him. I would give him one more year, and we'll see. I don't know what the fuck happened to them. That's my problem. Hurts wasn't as bad as their offense was. Their defense sucked. So what the fuck? I thought guys came back.
The tackling in that game really was. I mean, it did look like they all went to the Mario Cristobal School of Tackling. Tackling in general, has that been in serious decline in the National Football League?
It's the Dolphins' biggest thing. The Dolphins don't tackle for shit. I mean, in this last game, I get it was so cold. Guys were like, "No, I'm okay." Like they literally were just letting guys do whatever they wanted because it had to hurt to tackle. But even then, like, it wasn't cold in Tampa.
No. I mean, those guys looked like they were afraid to make a tackle. It looked like the Deion Sanders school of tackling.
Yep.
Or, as we often reference, my favorite scenario was when Dan Marino was trying to, it was, it's like token pressure in basketball. You're playing a friend of yours one-on-one, but you really don't want to guard each other. You want to just shoot the ball. And you call, actually, pronounce that this is going to be token pressure only. You're going to put a hand up like this, but you're still going to be 3 feet away from the guy, and you're never going to jump. Never going to attack, never going to foul the guy. And it looked like Philadelphia, literally, once anybody broke the line of scrimmage, and you see more and more of this around the National Football League. A lot of people would attribute it to the softening of the position of players in practice. They don't really, they're not ready for the season. Later on today on our Tony Bruno radio show, we are going to be talking to Jason Cole, and he's been applying that forever, that you almost have to discount September in a 17-game season because guys are essentially going through training camp at that point.
Yep.
But you would think by the end of the year, you would see some solid tackling, and yet we're seeing ineptitude on the defensive side of the ball all across the league. It's not unique to what happened with the Philadelphia Eagles in that ball game that they lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What was surprising is the level of shellacking that they took in that contest. And I guess once the game got out of hand, it was very much like the Browns game against the Houston Texans. And, of course, the Green Bay Packers against the Dallas Cowboys, where you're wondering, is anybody going to stick a head in there and make a stop? Or lower his shoulder and lower the boom on somebody? Didn't really see a whole lot of that. And I think that was indicative of the play all around the league. But
yep.
Interesting. You have 2 blowouts supposedly set up for Saturday's games. Ravens and the Texans. Well, I don't know, Lubie, Mr. Chalk. Would you lay?
The Ravens are going to kick their ass.
That is the most insulting thing. I'm sorry, Lubie. I didn't mean to call you Mr. Chalk because you did pick the Rams.
I've been all over the chalk except for the Rams. I think people are starting to do this thing where they're going crazy. They're going people have to go now. Jordan Love and Stroud are better than Tua, and the guys are going to lead the league the next decade. Okay, remember Carson Wentz is all I tell people.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're not good, but again, we see this. Guys, year one doesn't mean they're going to be great. Like teams have to see them and have to come back around and start making a game plan. Like the Ravens now have film on them. The Ravens saw what they did. To assume the Texans are going to do it again versus a much better team, I find it hard to believe. Yes,
it's hard to envision them winning the game, the Texans, on the road against the Ravens, who are now well-rested. But can they get within 9.5, Louis? That's the essential question. Can they be within double digits?
Can they? Yes. Well,
the Baltimore Ravens in that game. And then the 49ers game against the Packers is very similar. 9 and a hook is a number there for the 2 games on Saturday. Anticipated blowouts. by the number one seeds. Now we have seen this, where there's a little bit of ring rust sometimes, where having a bye week for whatever reason is not advantageous because you lose your rhythm. And you would also have to stipulate that both the Texans and the Packers have found their ultimate rhythm at this point in the season, having won games at the end of the year that were essential for them to even make it into the postseason. And then both teams had brilliant performances in the Super Wildcard weekend. I'm nervous about those two games. I don't know. Well, I'm not sure I would be willing to. One of those teams has to be within 9.5, don't they? Which one is it, my friend? Which one? Which girl do you go with, Lubie? Do you go with the lovely Shirley, or do you go back to one of your exes? I mean, which way do you go? You have to make the right call on this.
The Ravens, I think, win easily. I don't actually have any doubt about the game. The Niners game is the one thing because the Packers actually do have a good. The Texans defense played above its head. It's not like a great defense. The Packers actually do have a really good defense. It's playing really well, and they run the ball really well. So that can keep a game closer than it really should be. So I think the Niners will win that game. I wouldn't touch it because I don't like the spread in that regard. Again, it's Brock Purdy, who we've seen if things get a little tough, make mistakes. He's the guy that everything has to go right to go well. That's not Lamar Jackson. So those are the differences in the situation. Is Ravens have a really good team with a really good quarterback. The Niners have a really good team with a quarterback who is good if he stays out of the way. So I wouldn't touch that game. I would lean taking the points in that game because I think Jordan Love is doing just enough that I think the Packers will stay around. I think the Texans, everyone's overblowing them. I think they played at home in a dome versus a Browns team with Joe Flacco. And I think all that came to pass and it made them look a lot better than they really are. They play in the worst division, one of the worst divisions, or maybe the second worst division in football.
Yeah.
I think they got inflated a lot and people want to ride the horse of the under. I think this is the week that the Ravens say, no. And again, remember, the Ravens have been flirting with this for years now. The Ravens want this Super Bowl. The Ravens have been forgotten the last 2 to 3 years because they had a lot of injuries. I think they're coming into their own way. They're not going to slow down until they at least get to the Super Bowl. To me, I would go chalk as hell in that game. Like I think the Ravens should annihilate the Texans.
A taste of milk of magnesia. My God, that is ugly. Does Pepto-Bismol, would that be a better reference? Is that the ultimate in chalky taste, or is it milk of magnesia? What would you say? Maybe we make a little bit of a smoothie out of that, just to cover our ass for laying 9. Okay, so you're saying go ahead, lay the 9 and a hook with confidence in the Ravens game. You think the Texans are going to blow a gasket? That story comes to an abrupt end. Been a really, really nice ride. D'Amico Ryan's a very likable guy, easy to embrace. Have to love C.J. Stroud. Seems to be a very, very cool customer. Of the two, Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, I don't know that I anticipated this much disparity between their results in a rookie season. I mean, Carolina went crazy. They gave up virtually everything to the Chicago Bears to get that number one pick. They got Bryce Young. And now here they are giving the Bears right back a number one pick. I mean, you would have to think that was one of the shrewd maneuvers of all time. The Bears showing signs of life, I guess, at the end of the season. Was it Eberflus is the coach of the Bears?
I think they call it Eberflus or Eberflus. I don't know.
Whatever it is. Evan Rude, whatever. I mean, he's got them with a little bit of a mojo towards the end of the year, and enough to go ahead and have Bears ownership and management decide that he was worth bringing back for another shot. So we say, Justin Fields, I mean, that's an interesting situation where do you trade Justin Fields or do you go ahead and entrust him with the organization and draft Marvin Harrison Jr. if you were the Bears with the number one pick?
See, what I would do is trade it, get a haul because they have a lot of holes. And look, it's what the Lions did. Like people were like, Stafford's the guy, Goff's Yes, Stafford did go and win a Super Bowl for the Rams. So if you're the Rams, you're not upset making that move. But Goff has now become their franchise quarterback, and they got so many fucking picks, they were able to reload the roster and now have a talented, young, deep roster. Like, if you're the Bears, to me, it's not just one guy. Like, going and getting Marvin Harrison Jr. is a salve. It's going to Band-Aid. He should be good, and he should work with Justin Fields, but they need offensive line help. They need a lot of defensive help. They need more. They need multiple receivers. And this is a draft with one of those generational quarterbacks that maybe someone comes up and gives you a stupid-ass haul. Like, to me, they have 2 picks in the top 5, so you can still get a Marvin Harrison Jr. if you want, and then go and get an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, a linebacker. They just got rid of Roquan Smith, who had an all-pro year with the Ravens. Like, they need a lot. And I think that's the thing for Fields is I think he's actually – I like Fields a lot. I think he got annihilated because that team sucks. And they don't have anything. Like, I think them using that pick on a receiver, it'll be pretty and it'll make Fields look better. I don't think it'll give them more wins.
I'm inclined to agree with you that if I had the Bears situation number 1 overall pick, I'd probably deal it. Many teams are, coveting a quarterback. I guess Caleb Williams is going to be the number 1 pick. Not sure that that's going to pan out as well as people foresee, but the tail end of that USC season was not particularly flattering to Caleb Williams' chances, and yet we've seen him in the past be just a marvelous athlete. I think if he didn't play last year and came out, you would have had a lot of faith that he was going to be a great pro. Last year, I don't know, did it do enough damage, or was that all on Lincoln Riley there at USC? That they had no defense, and B seemed to unfortunately see their offense fall apart as the year progressed. But very interesting situation all the way around. Later on today, we'll be with our Tony Bruno radio show, Tony Bruno Sports Network. Download the app TBSN, and you can catch us 10 to 12 Eastern time. And unfortunately, they're not archiving those shows, so if you're not listening live, you're shut out. Well, this all began, though, with a conversation about the Rex Chapman game and the Miami Heat's effort last night against the Toronto Raptors. I was in shock. I'm watching, flipping channels. Yeah, the Panthers also playing last night on the local scene. Panthers losing for the 3rd time in a row, but they did get to overtime against the Detroit Red Wings, which are always problematical for any sports announcer. The Red Wings. How many times have you done it, Lubie? You don't mention a lot of hockey, but where you are talking about, and plus it's Detroit Red Wings. So it usually becomes Wed Wings. It's kind of like successful shoulder surgery. Those are the phrases that are particularly, problematic for a lot of sportscasters. How many times have you blown that one, Lubie? Successful shoulder surgery was performed last night. Yeah. You have to remind yourself to take a beat there. Successful shoulder surgery, so that you don't fuck it up. And Detroit Red Wings is another one. I probably have done it hundreds of times, Detroit Red Wings. You're like, hey, Elmer Fudd, why don't you take your tongue out of your ass and see if you can't give that, with some kind of a decent enunciation. The Red Wings, though, will come to town and win in overtime. Sort of a hairy situation for the Panthers. Barkov ends up being penalized for holding. I don't know. I mean, we love Red Deer Randy Moeller, Steve Goldstein, of course, good friends of ours over the years. They do a great job on the broadcast of the Florida Panthers. A lot of enthusiasm, and yet, not an over. You're going to have a certain bias towards the home team, of course. Moeller was screaming, as was the French Joe Philbin, Maurice, the coach of the Panthers. But almost every. Is there ever a time where a hockey coach just says, yeah, hey, good call, ref. You made the right call on our guy. He held him. Like there was no tomorrow. Barkov, kind of a cheesy late game call, and he's penalized. So the overtime ended up being 4-on-3 at the outset. 4-on-3 is a situation where you're thinking the team that has the advantage there, the one-man advantage, is probably going to win in overtime.
How can you not score in that?
They did. So that was that. And so I'm flipping back and forth, and I tuned in at halftime of the Miami Heat game. I see Eric Reed and John Crotty, and they looked like they were presiding over a wake. And I thought, well, what happened here? The game can't be over. It was only like 8:30, Lubie, and I'm watching the halftime results, and I guess, Toronto had like 78 points in the first half. Is that possible? 78?
Yeah, it was like 78, 45 or 43.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
It was like, okay. Because they had no one. They got rid of Siakam, and they have a bunch of guys coming back, so those guys aren't here yet. And they
got a lot of draft picks in there, and Bruce Brown was one of the assets that they acquired, and some guy I never heard of.
Well, no, he was a guy in the Nuggets that played really well against the Heat.
Yeah, no, he's a good player. He was at UM for a while.
The former team. He was a 5-star. So they didn't have a roster, so it was like, oh, okay. So the Heat just supposedly.
How are you down 37 in that situation?
We're hitting a weird, like the three. They went like 12 of 16 from 3, and the Heat were like 1 of 16. It was like some stupid ass
Horrendous shooting from the outside.
Shooting horrendous,
Yeah.
and they were hitting everything. And eventually, that's why he made a run. They regressed to the mean. The Heat woke up, but when you're down by 40, like it's hard to come back from being down by 40.
They got it down. I think I saw it to 16.
They got 13 with 9 minutes left. But I mean, at some point, like there's only so much.
Imagine blowing that game. Can you imagine blowing a 37-point lead?
I mean, teams have done it, but
You're up over 30 at halftime. But that was a strange game all the way around. So a rough night for the local teams. A lot of stuff on tap. Oh, and your Florida State Seminoles.
Yeah, Mr. Matthew Cleveland, the big fucking.
Oh my God!
Had 2 points, scumbag.
Scumbag, Lubie. I mean, this is a guy that's playing for the great Jim Larinaga.
I love Larinaga, but the FSU is literally better without him. They've now won even since the Lipscomb loss, which again, outside of your big daddy Lipscomb, I wouldn't know what the fuck a Lipscomb is. They've won.
How many times have I picked them to win the NCAA tournament? Lipscomb.
You love them, yeah. You just like the big daddy part. But
don't sleep on Big Daddy, my friend.
FSU started the ACC 0-1. They're now 5-1 in the ACC. Have now won 5 in a row, and just beat we're winning pretty comfortably until like the last 6 minutes at last night. The Canes, sadly, have now lost, I think, 3 in a row. They're starting to struggle.
Yeah. Where are they at? I mean, FAU and the Canes so far are very disappointing seasons.
Yeah.
You thought FAU might be better than they were last year because they returned virtually everybody. I think they lost, one guy off of that roster from a year ago when they made a Final Four and they had a 20-plus game winning streak. They changed conferences. Is the new conference that much tougher than the conference that they were in last year?
And the American Athletic? I don't even know where.
Who's in there? Like Tulane? Middle Tennessee State?
They in the American Athletic?
What the hell's in that conference with FAU? But they've been tagged with any number of surprising losses so far this year. And the Hurricanes, 3 in a row? I haven't really been following them that closely because there's so much other stuff going on in the world of sport. And naturally, like everybody else, where we have a little bit of a football obsession here, with apologies to the great Jim Sarney. But nonetheless, I mean, let's face it, this is what everybody's talking about. As I did see something last night, though, that was interesting. North Texas versus East Carolina. Did you happen to catch any highlights of that game?
No.
There was a Christian Leitner play in that game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, wasn't where he turned around and hit a turnaround jumper. I mean, he got the ball and turnaround jumper from just beyond the free throw line. Let's see. Let's get the names in here because they deserve credit. A guy named Aaron Scott of North Texas. East Carolina takes the lead with a 1-point lead with 3 seconds to go. And then they inbounds the ball. Aaron Scott inbounds the ball, throws it the length of the court inside the paint. And the catch is made there by a guy named Robert Allen, and Robert Allen banks home the shot that wins it. There was still a half a tick left on the clock. East Carolina inbounds the ball and hoists one from three-quarter court, almost went in. But nonetheless, that basket held up. And if you see the pass from out of bounds from the baseline at the opposite end of the court, a Christian Leitner type of catch and conversion on the bucket. And so North Texas ends up winning their 6th in a row. And they're now 11-5. East Carolina falls to 9-9. Not that anybody cares about that, but the highlight is sensational.
The Canes have lost 3 of 4. And they before this game, they did beat Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
But before that, they lost to Wake Forest and they lost to Louisville.
All right, we're going to come back with more here on the show. We'll get more into the other games that are taking place on Sunday. Lions and the Buccaneers, Bills and the Chiefs, and a host of other things here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Michael Lubitz with you. And we will take you to about 20 to 9 today. And then we have our no-filter thing we have to do because we've had to change a few things up. So to accommodate my medical situation, Lubie, which gets more bizarre by the day.
Oh, for now.
Well, I mean, I don't want to go into too much detail, not because it's personal or anything. It's just probably boring to people because, everybody's got something to complain about. I'm not complaining about it because I'm optimistic because I feel pretty good in general. And it looks to me like the situation's on the improve. But I keep getting these warnings that don't be deceived by what's going on the surface.
What does that mean?
It means, this thing, osteomyelitis, that is an infection in the bone.
It is better. Like, I don't know what that means.
Looks better. I mean, I'm walking around okay. My knee got better. And so that was a giant asset to me in terms of my overall comfort. They did change the, what would you call it, the dressing around this PICC line that I have. and whatever they did was not favorable. So
Oh,
I'm
geez.
hoping to maybe get that fixed up today. Do have a follow-up appointment for the first one with a doctor who would be able to render some kind of an opinion as to what the condition looks like, what kind of condition my condition is in. What was that? Was that? Was it Les McCann that had that show, that song? What condition your condition is in? Who had that song out there? It was a hit song. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to get a little bit of an assessment on that, so I'll know more about it. But in general, feeling pretty good. And if I look down at the situation, the inflammation aspect, 1,000% improvement, and walking around without any kind of difficulty whatsoever or impediment. But you're still looking at these IV bags and thinking 5 more weeks of this shit.
So those who are looking for trivia, we haven't done it in like a month.
Yeah.
And there's been many reasons why. I think we can bring it back next week. We'll start it.
Yes.
We have to be out a little early because Defo has to deal with these treatments for the next like 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
So we'll start at 8:15 so that we can get the full at least 30 to 40.
That's what we want to do. That's what we want to do. And our apologies to Dave Gurgles Gurgly.
Gurgles, he's good. Chronic just called. I want to let him know. So we're not bagging the trivia. Landlubbers literally gives me gift certificates to give away. I don't want to put those to waste.
Well, you'll be using them.
But they're not meant for that.
If Mayo shows up on his new diet with like 12 gift certificates,
Like I'm not trying. It's not meant for that. Like, and I know it's not meant for that. And we're not being grimy. So next Thursday we'll bring the trivia back 8:15 until about 8:45 so Devo can get his treatment.
I have plans. I mean, depending on what happens with the Tony Bruno Sports Network, but I wouldn't mind if that was all we did was the trivia show. Maybe once a week. I don't know what their plans are for weekend programming because so far they're still filling out the roster for the weekdays, which is kind of interesting. But as a radio entity, I think the Trivia Challenge is just absolutely ideal. So we'll see what happens with that. And according to the plans that I had heard about, it would make perfect sense to resurrect this whole thing. That would all be contingent, of course, on the participation of one Polyman, Paul Massell, who I talked to the other day. He's doing fine, but I'm not sure that he's ready to make his comeback as an entertainer and performer, which is probably what was his calling in life all along. Would you agree, Lubie? Never mind all of this degenerate gambling and all the other stuff he does. I know he's had a variety of different enterprises that he's been involved in, and if anybody could bury a business, it would be the Polyman and me. Remember, you weren't around when I invested in all of those payphones.
No,
I was rolling, man, rolling. We bought like 100 payphone outlets, and next thing you know, every one of them was in a gas station. And you always hate that when you pick up the receiver on a payphone towards the end and the death of payphones. Very much like the newspaper business, payphones became obsolete. The only ones that were successful were the ones in jails. And other than that, when you go to a gas station, you pick up the receiver, it's not even connected, right? The wire is already cut. And somebody has taken a sledgehammer to the coin box and taken all of the money out of there. So that was an unfortunate Bernie Madoff type enterprise that I got involved in. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment here on the Defo Show. That's Mike Lubie. It's very opinionated today. I like it, Lubie. You're coming strong. I'm Jeff DeForest, coming back with more in a moment. The Lunchbox Show today, you guys are lucky. I'm a little reluctant to get out there and immerse myself too much in public right now because of a variety of things that could impact my recovery, including everybody is sick. Is everybody still sick or is that past?
I don't know. I mean, the good thing about Calabria is it's closed.
Yeah.
So it'll be Frankie, who I know Frankie is out and about, but yeah, I think he keeps in good health.
I wouldn't mind being there, trust me, because the food is dynamite. Yeah.
From Greek, the new.
And now that Mayo has decided to cut down on his calories, there may actually be something left for the rest of us. Remember when he ordered like an additional 5 meals that first time we went there? He's like, yeah, let's try the veal chop. I'm like, Michael, we already have like 300 things here on the table, including what is that called when you get all of the meats and cheeses on one of those boards? A
charcuterie or what do they call it? Italian. It's called a charcuterie board.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
Freaking great, man.
When it's
unbelievable.
An aperitif, I guess.
Yeah, I'm debating whether I can make it over there today, but I would love to. I would love to be there.
If there's a place to go, it would be this because like the place is literally shut down.
Yeah.
It's just us and the chef, great chef Saul and Frankie. So
Yeah. Problem is, I got to race to this doctor and be there by like 3 o'clock. I probably could make it, but in all likelihood, I'll be right here on the screen. But it's going to be a lot of fun. It's always great to watch Mike Mayo schnorr over the freebies that are offered up there at Casa Calabria, and food is spectacular. So that's coming your way at 1 o'clock right here on South Florida Live and the Let's Eat South Florida page. We'll be back with more of the Defo Show in a moment. Now that it's 8:35. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in Style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodzi, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodzi, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. Make the right choice for your home. Call Choice Mortgage today.
This comes from the great Defo Llama. It's the bets you don't make, the chances you don't take, that can compromise an otherwise incredible life, my friend.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. A couple of minutes to go here on the program. Glad to have you guys with us. Let's take a quick look, Lubie, and render a losing opinion on the two games that take place on Sunday. I like the Lions. I like the story. I'm not a big fan of the Buccaneers. I was very surprised. I mean, either Philadelphia has just become so decrepit, so bad, and gone so much into the tank. That will be the main reason, I would think. And I like the Baker Mayfield story. It's nice to see this kid doing well. But nonetheless, I thought the Buccaneers were just a sad entity this year, including their game that clinched their postseason position and accorded them a home game in the first round of the playoffs. I don't know if it would have mattered that much because Philadelphia was so bad in that ball game if the game had been played in the city of brotherly love. But nonetheless, I mean, I was watching that Carolina game because I had some action on it. I had Carolina getting – I was amazed that Carolina was only getting 4 points in that game on the road against the Buccaneers, in a game the Buccaneers were in can we say this? Must-win situation. Yeah. Must win. They had to win that game to win the division, make the postseason. They end up winning the division, getting a cheesy accordance of that they were accorded a home game as a result. They nearly gave up. There was a shanked field goal attempt, and a guy fumbled before he got to the pylon for what would have been a Carolina touchdown. Otherwise, they lose that ball game. You can't say this for sure, but I mean, they essentially would have given up 10 points in a game where they only scored 9. So, by all rights, they could have lost to Carolina, a 2-win team in a 17-game season, in a game that they had a chance to clinch the division without needing a bunch of help from anybody else. Just straight up win the ball game and you win it. You win that game 9-0. Very unimpressive. The Lions have been a good story all year long. I was kind of surprised. Well, I mean, the Rams were no slouch going into that game.
They're playing really good football at the end of the year.
Second half of their season was outstanding. Sean McVay, you have to think that he didn't forget how to coach, although I thought that was, can we say this? I mean, I don't mean to be disparaging the women, but that was a pussy move, wasn't it? Kicking the ball away there, I thought that really badly compromised. I hate that when coaches go ahead and you're thinking, well, geez, I mean, if all they're going to have to do is make 2 first downs, you're really handing them a game on a silver platter. I mean, why not just include some of those little knishes while you're passing out the hors d'oeuvres? So unimpressive the Buccaneers, even though they shellacked the Philadelphia Eagles. 6 and a hook, not a giant number.
Yeah. It's not a great number, but it's not scary enough to put me away. I mean, the Bucks beat the Eagles. Yeah, but this was not the Eagles we saw last year or even the first few weeks of this
The
year.
Eagles may as well have been Carolina in that game.
They were. The Eagles at this point of the year are a team that really wouldn't have made the playoffs. Again, they lost it was a 6 in a row. I mean, like
they lost 6 of their last 7, it turned out.
Yeah, they were one of the bad teams. So that's why the Bucks were able to win. The Bucks are playing interesting football. The Lions are playing really well. The offense is really good, and the defense is not bad. I don't know if it's good, but it's not bad. It doesn't get in their way. Like, I think the Lions can cover that. Like, I'm mixed with the AFC and the NFC. I feel like, and I think the Chiefs, I know you haven't moved on to that, but we got to get out of here.
Yeah, we got to run.
Chiefs win. Like,
You think the Chiefs beat the Bills?
The weather being an issue, again, you said it, and it became a national story after you said it yesterday. 15 people were hospitalized.
Unbelievable, yeah.
In that fucking game.
Frostbite, for God's sake.
It was bad with Buffalo.
Yeah.
I know the visibility was worse. Like the Chiefs game, it was cold, but you could see the Bills. The reason they didn't play was because the goddamn storm, so you couldn't see. But it was actually colder in Kansas City. So it's not like the Chiefs haven't played in weather like this.
Oh, no, they can handle the weather, I think.
And Mahomes
can handle the Bills. Yeah.
And Mahomes can play in crappy weather. The Bills' defense isn't scary right now. That's the funny thing is Tua didn't get hit a lot. He does get hit enough that it threw him off. Yeah. Mahomes doesn't give a shit about that. And I think with this Rice kid, they're starting to figure something out.
He looks like Jerry Rice. He really does.
He can get Kelsey under control because he was weird. He did have 3 drops, but then he had some really nice catches that kept drives going. The Bills, again, Matt Milano's the kind of guy that would have defended him. They don't have
He's dropped more balls than Farrell Edmonds did in a Dolphin uniform. Unbelievable.
I feel like the Chiefs win this game. Like, I feel like it comes down to the coaching matchup, and I think Andy Reid is a better coach decisively than McDermott. I think he gets away with stuff versus McDaniel that he doesn't against Reid. So I would go the dog in that game, and I would definitely take the 2 and a hook. I would go the Lions and give the 6 and a hook, relay the 6 and a hook.
So you're taking the Chiefs?
Chiefs.
All right, very good.
And we did the other ones. I would go Packers. If you're making me take a pick, I would take the points with the Packers game. And then I really do think the Ravens.
Ravens blowout. You might be 4-0, Lubie.
I think I'm going to be.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bet every one of your games, and I'm going to parlay them in 2-team, 3-team, and 4-team parlays.
I know I'm getting 2 wrong, but it is what it is.
We have to run the burial picks. I think I went 0-3 in the NFC on our No Filter show. Picked all 3 losers, including my pick of the week, and then went 2-1 in the AFC. But we did hit our game with the Smelts losing to the Kansas City Chiefs and not coming close to covering the point spread. All right, we have to run on this one. We'll join you on Caffeine TV later on today. You can catch that. We put that thing up there about 9 o'clock. And then, actually, it's going to get underway shortly here if you're watching it live. Not sure what the availability is on Caffeine TV of the live broadcast, but nonetheless, it's getting a lot of traction. So we're feeling very good about that. And then the Tony Bruno Sports Network at 10 o'clock. Download the app, TBSN, and you can catch us live and pop it on a Bluetooth on a sound bar or in your car. Sounds like FM. All right, we'll see you next time. We'll see you tomorrow with a Degenerate Friday edition of the Defo Show. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for tuning in. Gary, once again, I hope you were with us. And we did, appreciate the fact that I can't believe anybody's listened to all of our shows and caught us. I mean, you and I for 15 years and overall me here for 42 years here in the market. Gary hasn't missed a show. So we love you, Gary. Thanks so much for tuning in. All of the people on the chat line appreciate the input. And we'll see you next time as we leave it on that.
The time.
It's 8:43.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.